City Sports Now. We don't need no stinking bumper music. Wanted to say, it is race week, and of course we talked to Jerry Bonkowski of, NBCSports.com as well as Sirius from time to time. And we will talk to Drew Bedard at Bristol Motor Speedway here in about 15 minutes about what's going on this week. Obviously, it's Food City 500. They announced their partnership, Food City. I mean, I'm giving free ads right now, so I don't really want that. Sponsorship's going to stay the same. I don't know about that because, think about it. This is national event sponsored by local supermarket. Do they know in San Francisco Food City? No. Do they know in Los Angeles Food City? No. They know Ralph's in Los Angeles. Do you know Ralph's? Probably not. I was in Los Angeles once, and I noticed that the supermarket was Ralph's. So, that was the big one there. Still, it's that idea, and I do think, that's kind of an intriguing idea. And it's also, hey, I remember Dale Earnhardt doing ads for the supermarket, local ad, that was a big thing that they had put in. And let's face it, I think that what with, we now see, it used to be that every grocery store seemed to be, A&P from way, way back in the day was national, but it seemed like, mostly they were local chains and all that. So, now we have, other bigger chains coming in, certainly a Walmart, certainly a Kroger, these guys coming in. So, Food City, they need to advertise if they're going to stay, in business. And what better than to have BMS? To have that rate. That's killer for them. I get it, and so their sponsorship continues. I just do wonder from a NASCAR standpoint, hey, look, we have local supermarket. It's not the Chevy 500, it's the local supermarket 500. And does that make the sport look small? Oh, you can look at that. Anyway, I will say, Jenna Fryer, NASCAR writer, AP, very good writer, speaks about Darrell Waltrip will be retiring, and he also, in a column not long ago, printed actually saying, look, I can't wait for him to retire, which I am somewhat surprised about because for me, he's still the star of the broadcast, going boogity, boogity, boogity. It's racing. I've interviewed Darrell Waltrip. I liked him a lot. In my interview, he came off very likable and stuff. But do you agree with this? I'm not sure I do. With what I'm going to read with Jenna Fryer. I need to see if I can't get her on the show. The carnival-like yuck fest is stale. The corn pone of it, all only magnified since the network began using current drivers in its coverage of the Xfinity Series. Harvick, Keselowski, and others have proven that by simply talking about the action in front of their eyes, they can deliver an informative and entertaining program void of, historical references. I don't mind. I talked 5 minutes about the 1954 World Series on yesterday's show, so I make historical references, okay? And I don't, that's one of the things. It's the totality of the whole. Now, Waltrip is hinting that he'll retire. I guess if I see him out there, are you retiring, Darrell? He's a big runner. I don't know if you, Darrell Waltrip, always, in fitness and such, he always is big in running and all that. Anyway, the NASCAR, here's the thing, though. Talk about the rise and the fall of NASCAR racing. And around the turn of the century, I don't think NASCAR ever got better coverage, one way or the other, than what they got on Fox when Fox got the NASCAR contract. The coverage was just outstanding. And we weren't sure how to put our fingers on, and probably some of it was boogity, boogity, boogity. And maybe the historic references that Waltrip made were a bit more contemporary then than they are now. Fryer writes that Jeff Gordon hears the guffaws and sort of, just goes along awkwardly. That I don't quite get that. I don't get that from the broadcast right now. Anyway, I would just recommend this, and I say, obviously NASCAR is a Heartland appeal sport. And I really think one of the things that, baseball, when its popularity started to wane in the 90s, baseball was always a Heartland broadcaster. Joe Garagiola, Kurt Gowdy, Izzy Dean. And then, when ESPN came aboard, they had their Android sportscasters. Chris Berman would call a game on Thursday night, or was it a Tuesday night or something? But, 10 o'clock on a Tuesday, Chris Berman, that was a little bit tough to stay up with. And, there was John Miller on the Sunday night game, but again, that has John Miller. That's not a bad get by any means. But I don't know if John Miller really has Heartland appeal. And it seemed like the game of the week went away. Sean McDonough. And even when NBC got the contract back, all right, there was Bob Uecker to try to make it funny, but there was Bob Costas. Great sportscaster, great broadcaster, currently working MLB Network. But does Bob Costas have, quote-unquote, Heartland appeal? I'll let you decide. He hosted that show later for how long? So, I'm not saying he doesn't. He's from a New Yorker in St. Louis and all this. I used to love listening to his radio talk shows, his long-form interview shows. But do they have, does an interview for 2 hours with Dick Cavett, does that play well in Sulphur Springs? I don't know. I would hope that it would. I kind of like Dick Cavett. But no, that's not, interviewing, Jerry Clower or something. Point being, I don't think NASCAR wants to lose its Heartland appeal on the broadcast. Baseball did, and it didn't work out well for them. In fact, I think in a large part, I've thought about this, that, baseball really was every man's sport through the 80s. You could talk about the these guys were pretty well known. You had the baseball card, and yeah, I'm a teenager growing up, so I collect baseball cards. Maybe you don't do that so much when you're 57. I get it. But you have a circumstance where it just seemed like the baseball player was a bigger star than he is today. And that was, given by, Mike Trout is supposedly the most popular player. And on Instagram he has 3 million followers, and LeBron has 50 mil or something. It's just, ridiculous. The disparaging between, say, NBA players online and baseball players. For that matter, football players as well. Certainly Mike Trout is not known as well as Tom Brady. Or probably even Mitch Trubisky. That's debatable, but I would argue that. I would say that Mitch Trubisky, the quarterback of the Bears, probably is better known than Mike Trout. Anyway, of course, Colin Cowherd last night was talking about, I guess people were upset that Bryce Harper flipped his bat. And, you can't get away from the bat flip. Baseball is taking out its personality. They can't, crusty old guy. It's not crusty old guy who's taking away baseball's personality. Crusty old guy remembers when baseball players had personality back when, be it Reggie Jackson being a fathead, be it Willie Stargell being a gentleman, be it Pete Rose being aggressive, be it, I don't know, the Oakland A's, who certainly had personality in the 70s, and certainly the Pittsburgh Pirates did as well. Be it the Boys of Summer, in Brooklyn Dodgers, they had personality. No one ever accused Mickey Mantle of not being a personality. I mean, they had them. We played Move Over Babe, Here Comes Henry, at 12:15 or so, I guess it was 12:20, because it's the 45th anniversary of his 714th home run. We had that, there was personality in baseball. There's no question about it. Crusty guys saying, run to first base as soon as you hit the ball is not what's killing baseball. Trust me. If you want to say what's taking personality out of it, I would suggest to you that two things. One, legitimately, the Players Union. Because the Players Union is not so much about trying to market and match player with team, but rather player getting everything he possibly can. Been plenty of players that were, I probably would like to stay with the franchise that farmed me, and yet they are traded, they go away in a free agent to the highest bidder. A lot of that is the pressure from the Players Union. You've got to keep the salaries escalating. That's what they're all about. But also the analytics people, the Moneyball people, that have turned baseball players into numbers, and oftentimes algebra problems. It's not, did he have to bat flip that is destroying baseball or anything? Heck, I mentioned, I made a David Letterman mention. He was at the game where Henry Aaron hit his 714th home run in Cincinnati. Well, he once had on Batting Stance Guy. You ever see that website? It's a very popular website. Guy can copy every batting stance of a baseball player. Think about this. You were a kid. You knew all the batting stances. Whether it was Pete Rose's crouch, Stargell's windmill. What about Yaz's windmill? He did it with one hand. What about it was said Stan Musial had a stance that said, it was said that it looked like a man trying to peek through a keyhole. So, his stances, they stand the test of time. Dave Parker holding his hands up high. Steve Kemp holding his hands down low. The point, there's a reference I don't think you would have heard of old-time ball player Steve Kemp. Players still have those batting stances, but are they copied? Are they in the American culture as much as they once were? I think a lot of this is that baseball lost some of its Heartland appeal. I think part of it was the banning of Pete Rose. Not that he shouldn't have been. I think he should have. But the country hardball hero was diminished. That's about the time NASCAR, certainly a Heartland sport, started to take over and get that country boy player. I used to always say, a baseball guy and all this, I remember really getting ticked off in a Bristol press conference. I was up at the Speedway, and one of the reporters said to one of the TV guys, "Why are you still covering baseball?" This is back in the 90s. That really ticked me off. I did not feel welcome suddenly in that room. And, but what had happened is that NASCAR had taken away baseball's Heartland appeal to that person. Now, if you risk changing the NASCAR broadcast too much, if Waltrip does retire and it's not boogity, 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 and there aren't the historic references, and it is all a Brad Keselowski just talking about what's going on the track right now and keeping it between the lines, which is what baseball broadcasts have become, then you run the risk of alienating maybe the last fans you have. I don't know if Jenna Fryer realizes that when she writes about the stale broadcast that Darrell Waltrip brings Heartland appeal, and that brings a lot of people in. I'm going to talk to Drew Bedard here in just a second. Tri-City Sports Now.